everyone, my name is Shadan Seraj and I am currently doing an internship under LEXIS and Company. So today's topic is sex education. Sex education is the instruction of issues relating to human sexuality, including emotional relations and responsibilities, human sexual anatomy, sexual activity, sexual reproduction, age of consent, reproductive health, reproductive rights, safe sex, birth control, and sexual abstinence. Sexual education that covers all these aspects is known as comprehensive sex education. The most commonly reported sources of sex education were peers, parents, and high school courses, respectively. Some schools may require parental permission before the students can take up sex education. Sex education can generally be broken down into three categories. Abstinence only sex education. It teaches children to wait up until they are either married or adults to engage in sexual relationships. Students learn the basic mechanics of sex but do not typically get information on birth control or disease prevention. Instead, the psychological and physical risks of sex are emphasized, and teachers may discuss ways for students to say no to sex and avoid temptation to have sex. Several studies have demonstrated that abstinence-only sex education may not be effective and could even increase. Several studies have demonstrated that abstinence-only sex education may not be effective and could even increase sexual risk-taking behavior because kids who take abstinence-only education don't know how to use condoms and other forms of sexual protection. Health and safety oriented sex education is a sex education that teaches students the mechanics of sex as well as basics of birth control and sexual consent. Students may receive lessons in choosing and using different forms of birth control. This form of sex education focuses primarily on physical well-being, and students who receive this type of education are generally better equipped to protect themselves, but still might not be prepared for the emotional implications of having sex. Comprehensive sex education attempts to address both safety and emotional concerns regarding sex. Comprehensive sex education may also address diverse sexual orientations. It is highly controversial but generally shows the lowest rates of teen pregnancies and STDs. The importance of delivery of sex education in a timely fashion to this significant demographic is emphasized by current statistics that show that almost 1 in every fifth person on the globe is an adolescent. They comprise 18%, roughly 1.2 billion of the world's population, with 88% living in the developing countries. India has the largest adolescent population. These figures indicate the importance of specifically addressing the healthcare needs to this considerable demographic, particularly for the developing countries such as India. Meeting the needs of such a vulnerable group and overcoming existing shortcomings in the delivery of tailored primary preventive measures would significantly improve the survival and general health conditions, nutritional status, and sexual and reproductive health of the future of Indian adult population. One major source of controversy in the realm of sex education is whether LGBT sex education should be integrated into school curriculum. LGBT sex education includes inclusive teaching of safe sex and practices for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals, and general instruction in topics related to sexual orientation and gender identity. Studies have shown that many schools don't offer such education today. 5 states, namely Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Texas, have laws in place that ban teaching LGBT sex education. Now comes the question of cultural challenge. Public discussion of topics of sexual nature are widely considered as a taboo in Indian society, therefore acting as a barrier to delivery of adequate and effective sexual education to Indian adolescents. Sex education at school level has attracted strong objections and apprehension from all areas of the society, including parents, teachers, and politicians, with its provision banned in 6 states, which include Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Karnataka. Legislators contend that it corrupts the youth and offends Indian values, leading to experimentation and irresponsible sexual behavior. Some opponents argue that sex education has no place in a country such as India with its rich cultural traditions and ethics. These views lie at the heart of the traditional Indian psyche and will need to be approached tentatively with psychological insight when challenged. More importantly, adolescents in the age group of 15 to 24 years contribute to a disproportionate 31% of AIDS burden in India, despite the whole demographic comprising about 25% of the country's population. According to the last UNAIDS report, there are 23 lakh people of 15 years and above living with HIV in India. With one youth infected with HIV/AIDS almost every 15 seconds, well-designed school sex education can help combat the culture of ignorance, hesitation, shame, and fear associated with the disease in the community from which the disease is born. This can only be achieved by scraping away deep-rooted and widely accepted misconceptions and speculations. Adolescents who receive comprehensive sex education have a lower risk of pregnancy than those who receive abstinence only or no sex education. Comprehensive sex education includes information on birth control and on prevention of sexually transmitted disease as well as abstinence messages. Programs that focus on abstinence without discussing safer sex behavior do not seem to reduce HIV risk. Some abstinence only programs can decrease teens' sexual behavior, although the effects are modest and short term. It is perceived as a basic human rights that falls under the broader title reproductive rights as emphasized by reputable NGOs such as the Family Planning Association of India and International Planned Parenthood Federation, as well as the World Association for Sexual Health. Sex education is not damaging the children or adolescents. Sex education encompasses a range of topics that are tailored to mental level of the child. For most of the young adults, sexual relationships are built on principles similar to those relationships learned in early life. Children are aware and recognize these relationships long before they act on their sexuality and therefore need the skills to understand their bodies, relationships, feelings from an early age. Thank you.